So it's going to be one of those days. All right. Bases dropped on a new round of SDH. John, hear you there. Apologies for the voice. Um, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Reconstituted air, and it caught up with me this weekend. I am now in the land of the homeopathic stuff, and so we'll see what happens. But it's going to be an interesting day. So Abe Gordon's going to join us here in just a little bit, and we'll break down everything that's on your collective mind when it comes to what happened this weekend. And there are a couple of different things that we're going to be getting into. Obviously, Abe will come in. We'll talk about all of the activity and what's on Abe's mind. After that, we'll get into highlights. And literally, it's just the Carlos Heel moment. But then there are the other things that we need to get into and discuss. And Bart's going to join us in hour number 2. But what I want to do is I want to do the discussion that we're going to have about cards and calls. I want to do it in a way that is constructive. Sorry, I'm pouring my caffeine for the morning. So where do I put this so it doesn't spill? I'm sure wherever I put it, it's going to spill anyway. All right. So in hour number 2, when Bart comes in, obviously we've got to do cards and calls. And there are a couple of different things that we've got to get into. And what I want to do is I want to look at it from the perspective of going over the call and what could be going through an individual's mind in that moment. And there are a couple of things that I want to get into with Bart about decision making. And what I want to do is get into a discussion with Bart once again about the laws of the game and what folks might be thinking about in those moments. So it's going to be one of those where you're going to be looking at the laws of the game and going through the moments of the match and then remembering or reminding ourselves about, in those moments, what is transpiring and what the call can be one way or the other, and then try to walk through the call. And so we have, and there are a couple of philosophical issues that I want to get into that are a part of it, where you're looking at the idea of, okay, well, you've got game management we've got to get into. You have just the idea of controlling a match that we've got to get into. So in reffing down here, when we get into cards and calls, then it's going to be that discussion. So we'll bring that in with Bart in hour number 2 and kind of walk through it and take the events of what happened on the weekend so we can all be more informed, or just I'm not going to say better educated, but just know where folks are coming from in these particular instances and what folks are seeing. And so it was not a good day for Alexis De Silva. I'll go ahead and say that. I don't think it was. I'm sure if you asked Alexis De Silva, he would probably tell you otherwise. But we'll take the information that we have from his, I'm not going to say, it's not manner, but just how he called the match. And then we'll take that information and go forward just about so we can all be better informed and can understand. It's almost like a defensive driving course. So we can understand where folks are coming from and where the gaps can be and where the gaps can be in a situation like this. So we'll get into that with Bart in hour number 2. And so we'll go over everything that's on your mind from what happened this past weekend. Like I said, it doesn't have to be Atlanta United, but Atlanta United's obviously number 1 on the board. So we can talk about Atlanta United. We can talk about anything else in Major League Soccer. We can talk about anything else going on in the world of soccer. Kylian Mbappe with, Kylian Mbappe got a red, and obviously the world was falling down about it. But it points to a larger picture. And I'll see if I can find the Luis Enrique conversation that he had in the film room with Kylian Mbappe. And that has always stuck with me about how Mbappe is right there, but then he could be so much more. But there's, like I said, that conversation that Luis Enrique had with him in the film room that was caught on tape. I mean, it wasn't one of these hidden camera things, someone is like sneaking a cell phone in or anything. But it was a nasty challenge, and it's just anytime you have a moment like that, and I swear to God, I was looking at the Big 55 this morning, and it was on a Spanish speaking sports network. And in that Spanish speaking sports network, they were wondering out loud. And of course, I know this particular program, and they like to kind of gin things up, and they work in the extremes, and it's, schlock talk, sports talk radio that is on television in Spain. And it was one of those, is this red a good thing for Kylian Mbappe? And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So Kylian Mbappe gets a red. And there's a moment that with Luis Enrique when he was at PSG, it's like, dude, we need you to help out in other places. I'll see if I can find the conversation. But when Kylian Mbappe has a moment like he had, that conversation that it wasn't really a conversation. It was more Mbappe listening and Luis Enrique trying to make Kylian Mbappe understand about who he can be and how he needed to help PSG at the time. But it was an intriguing conversation. And so we'll get into that also in hour number 2. Jared Smith joining us early on a Monday morning. What's on your mind?
Oh, just chaos.
Of course. Feel free. Abe's set to join us in a couple of minutes, so do not hang up and be a part of the conversation when Abe joins us. And Abe was wondering, I think Abe's working early this morning, and so he said he might be joining us off of his phone as opposed to a normal computer laptop. So we'll see how effective that is when it comes to Abe setting to join us here in just a little bit. But you've had a couple days to think about it. What's on your mind after the weekend?
It's disappointment. I think, it's as much frustration as anything, but I think it's kind of this weird feeling that everything's a juxtaposition in your head because it doesn't feel like it's a team that should have the worst start in their club's history,
Right.
but it is, and you are what your record says you are after 8 games. It's just what it is. Like you can push back on it, and I think they're better than what their record is, but they are what their record is, and it's coming down to mental mistakes again. It's coming down to little moments, some misfortune, which we'll talk to Bart about at some point.
10 o'clock.
Where I think Pro has spit the bit a couple times, but in a game where you had 2 goals wiped out, one of them correctly, for sure, the latte goal. That one's weird. Where I'm like, he's offside. Even if he wanted to get back on side, he wasn't getting back on side because he was getting held. But he was offside, so fine with that. Yep. And you have 2 goals wiped away, and you hit the woodwork twice. You generate almost 3 XG, and it's one of those games where, like, I will put stock into XG. Like, you have to. This is the thing with statistics, is you got to pick your spots with what you consider to be a worthwhile statistic and a not worthwhile, XG statistic. Well, you generated almost 3 with 2 goals wiped away, hitting the woodwork, forcing a couple really good saves. You feel good. Like, if you had said that, you'd have felt good about what your offense was doing.
Yeah.
The area for me, John, that you got to take a really hard look at is going to be the defense. And yeah, we'll get into the officiating because one of my least favorite things on the face of this earth, one of my pet peeves is this whole thing of you have to overcome the officiating. It is this bullshit American ideal that we have.
There's the E rating 10 minutes in, attaboy.
That you're supposed to overcome all adversity and that you can't ever point to any adversity, when the literal mantra we use all the time correctly, and it worked this way too, goals change games.
Yes.
You get an early goal there, you've changed the tenor of the game against the New England team that had no interest in really playing. They came out with one particular idea. They exploited based off of you made adjustments. They had no interest in making further adjustments and going and actually playing that game.
Yeah.
Because they hacked you down in the midfield like they were in a stump town trying to take trees down.
Yeah.
They had zero interest in actually playing. Modern day Caleb Porter will never see the gates of heaven. I think old school Caleb Porter from 10 years ago would fight modern day Caleb Porter on the touchline.
Right.
And he would do it proudly. But goals change games. You have a goal wiped away, it changes the game. That's how it works.
Yeah.
You don't have to pretend like Like, well, that got taken away, but we should still be able to do. Yeah, you would love to live in that world, but you don't always live in that world. So yeah, goals change games. But for me, I think the thing is that the back line, you got to have some serious conversations about. I thought you looked better at 3 at the back, and I'm sure like there's going to be a call to go to 3 at the back this week. But styles make fights, and you're going to have to figure out how you want to attack this Philadelphia team on the road.
Yeah. I mean, it's Bradley Carnell. You know what you're getting into, but it's basically the same Philly. It's just with a different head coach and a St. Louis twist.
Tom, we're going to talk about the ref, man. We're going to talk about it because it's a goal that changed the flow of the game. Like, I don't know what you want, man. Like, yeah, we'll talk about the other missed chances. I'm here to talk about the problems with the defense, the problem that Miggy did not drop back into defending. So you had Emmanuel Latte-Lot dropping back into defend. It makes a careless challenge on Carlos Heel.
Yeah.
Because he drops back and he defends Miggy staying up the field. He makes a careless challenge. It's the right call because there's contact. I'm not going to argue that call at all. Like, there's contact. It's at the edge of the box, but it's in the box. He nailed that. They went to VAR in his ear. They got it right. It was used perfectly there, man. I give them all their flowers for that one. But you do change the game when you don't give a first goal.
Mm-hmm.
You hit the woodwork twice. You forced a couple good saves. That sucks. I don't know how you didn't find a breakthrough. I don't. But you are what your record says you are right now. And you got to figure out the defense because as your offense is going to keep misfiring, as your offense is going to keep misfiring, you need your defense to stay locked in.
Yeah.
And you haven't had that consistently. And it's been different guys. Like, look, Sion's been up and down. Derek Williams is banged up right now. But Derek Williams had a couple of really rough games where he made mistakes that you can't make. I am personally of the opinion I would be fine if you wanted to go 3 at the back with Abraham, Sion, and Noah Cobb, do it. If you want to play Noah Cobb and Efrain Morales together and go 2017 Philly style, do it. Put the kids out there. If guys are going to make mistakes anyway, put my kids out there. Let them make the mistakes and let them grow because one of them is already a CONMEBOL national team player for Bolivia, and the other one's a youth American national team player who has the potential to be more than that.
Yeah.
I'm fine playing those guys, but defense has got to nut up.
Yep.
Because if your offense is going to misfire, the most important number you're going to have to put up is that goose egg on the other end. And only once this year have you done it, and you did an amazing job of it against Red Bulls. You didn't give up a shot on goal. You gave up one shot on goal the entire weekend to both Red Bulls teams and walked away with 1 point because they got a deflected goal against the twos and didn't put a shot on frame against the first team. That was great. But you got to build on that, and you have to be better defensively. I mean, this is getting back into like Frank DeBoer territory of I know what I have defensively, I know what I have offensively, and while we put the pieces together, we're going to be a little bit more pragmatic. Yeah. And then we'll open the engine up when we get a chance.
So you see how fired up Jared is, Abe.
Yeah, I agree with some of it, and I'm reading the comments, and some of them I agree with, and some I don't. I don't know how much you guys got into before I popped on in regards to the goal that was taken away offsides and all that.
No, I'm getting yelled at when I bring that up, and not just here, but anywhere. So I don't know. It's this thing again where apparently if we bring that up, we're making excuses as opposed to telling a guy to do his job correctly. Again,
well, I mean, look,
they're actually be scoring more goals. I agree, but we're going to talk about the shit that happened on Saturday.
Yeah, look. This is not the first instance of you had opportunities to put a game away and didn't do so. And obviously this cost you points, not just 1, but potentially 3. You hit the crossbar, a half inch lower, and that's a goal from Latte-Lot. You hit the post a half inch, a quarter inch to the left. That's a goal from Jamal Tiare. And I just disagree with this mindset that it's not a good team. They're not getting results. And I don't think those are the same things. And it's not here sitting and making excuses and this or that. A team that's not good has no hope. A team that's not good can't turn it around. I still feel like this team can turn it around. I do still feel like this team has hope. And as we learned from the postseason run last year, if you could just get in and be healthy, you could see what happens. Now, no one's going to sit here and say they'd be happy if the Atlanta United comes in as a 7 seed or an 8 seed has to deal with that again. Like obviously that's falling short of expectations. But if that's what we're dealing with at the time, then so be it. And so look, if we're sitting here 10 more games in and saying the exact same thing, that they're putting together good performances but not getting results, now I start to maybe sit here and say, now hold on, like, are the results ever going to come? But it has been disappointing. There's no way around that. But I still think they're going to find a way to turn it around. And at some point, I will lose faith that they will turn it around if it doesn't come. I'm not there just yet. And in terms of the quote controversial calls or whatever, I stand by this. It sounds like, Jarrett, you're probably close to me on this as well. PK has to be given. It just does.
For Carl's heel?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He absolutely got that right. You can be mad about it, but he got it right.
It starts in the box. There was contact to take a player down. Now, is it bad defending in that moment with a player that's not even really running across the face of goal, but almost away from goal? Yeah, it's bad defending. You can't create contact there, but it has to be given. I'm not mad at that call. I don't blame that call. I think it's the correct call. It hurts you, but it's the correct call. I do have some issues with how they officiated the offsides. And it just, maybe we've all, it's not just me, misunderstood the rule of intent and stuff like that. But I just don't see a world in which it was a deflection or a reactionary play from the New England defender. He played a bad ball, but he played a ball. It was intentional. I just don't see how you give that as offsides. But whether or not that's offsides, whether or not it takes a goal off the board, the team's got to stay focused. They can't concede 4, 5, 6 minutes later, whatever it was. And they've got to find a way to finish opportunities. This is another one that is 2-1, 3-1 at worst, and you're just not getting there. Again, you know how much I love XG there, John. But 2.8 is not insignificant. 2.8 to be clean sheeted is something you have to address. And the players are saying the right things. Ronnie Dyla is saying the right things. And we're trying to hold optimism that at some point it will take a turn. At some point, some of the luck will bounce Atlanta United's way, but so far it hasn't. They're off to the worst start in franchise history, including a homestand of 3 games against 2 of these teams really bad, if we're going to be straight honest. And you were only able to muster 4 points. And I think Atlanta United fans have reason to be angry. They have reason to be frustrated. But I'm just not yet to where we have reason to lose hope or be pessimistic over the course of a season. If I have to get there, I will. Trust me, I'll turn. But hopefully they don't bring me to that.
Yeah, I'm going to nuance this a bit, because that's what sports is. It's nuanced. Ultimately, it's right now, as we stand, I think it is an incredible selection of players and an incredible roster. They are not consistently playing like a team for me. They have moments where they are, but then there are too many moments where they are off balance, not on the same page, and it just doesn't. It doesn't feel like. It does not feel like, to belabor the metaphor, it does not feel like whatever we are putting in that mixing bowl is mixing the way we need to. Will it? Very likely. Like, I think there's too much talent for it not to. To your point about Ronnie Dyla, and look, I watched that man manage at Celtic in 2014 through 2016. Let me preface that by telling you, 2014 through 2016, there was no Rangers. Rangers had ceased to exist. Like, whatever fantasy you have about your greatest rival falling apart was what happened to Rangers if you're a Celtic fan, because the club literally went into administration and bankruptcy and ceased to exist and had to restructure and start at the very bottom of the ladder.
Yep.
He was playing and coaching the far and away the most the highest revenue and highest rostered team, and every single loss was met with like brimstone and death. So I as far as Ronnie goes, I don't think he's gonna be like I personally don't think he's gonna be like sweating out like, oh man, I gotta get this win. Like he's seen some shit. Now does that mean that he's not gonna shrug it off? No, I don't think so at all. I just think for me and my expectation from him is that he's seen some shit. He is going to have a different toolbox maybe than other people on how to address that. And the trick is going to be actually doing it and actually getting guys to sync up. Sorry.
Well, a couple of things here, and that is from Ronnie Dyla and from the players, there's frustration, but there's not panic. And I think that goes to what you're suggesting, Jarrett, and I think that's important. Yeah. And the other thing, John, is something I told you, and I've reminded you that I told you as the season started before it got going, and that is that you have to have patience and just look, I'm not going to lie. It's taken a lot longer for this team to figure out what exactly is going on, and they haven't figured it out yet. There's no doubt about that. I was hoping it within 4 or 5 matches, they would start to look like the team we need them to look like. That hasn't happened yet, and we're now through 8 matches. So it's taken longer than I thought. But I warned people at the very start. It's like, hey, man, this feels like it's going to take quite a long time for it to come together. And so we're not going to panic at the start of the season. Now we're getting to the point where it's a little bit beyond just the start of the season. And it hasn't come together. That doesn't mean it's not going to come together. And I think we've seen in recent seasons, you don't have to be that good for that long in stretches of the MLS season to make it to the playoffs. I mean, this is a team that fired a manager last season, had a horrible run under an interim manager, turned it around for a 5-game stretch, gets into the playoffs, and goes on a run. And so we are not even close to being in the desperation mode that last season's team was in. I still believe that they will figure it out, can figure it out, and when they do figure out, will be increasingly dangerous. Now, that means they're no longer going to play for the Supporters' Shield. Fine. They're probably not going to lead the MLS in scoring. Fine. But as long as we get to a point where they figure it out and they start to put stretches, not just in games, but stretches of the calendar together where you're knocking off 3-point, 3-point, 1 point on the road, 3-point, 3-point on the road, you're right, and start to kind of get to where this team needs to be. But I think it's important that they are unified. They have the exact same messages from manager onto the veteran players, onto the younger players as well. And again, it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be, bothered by the results. It's not okay to panic, and it's not okay to lose focus and lose the message. And they haven't been doing that. And that gives me a little bit of belief. Because I am just like everyone else, emotional, frustrated, and becoming increasingly pessimistic about the chances. But I also have to remind myself, like I'm the one that said, hey, it's going to take a while before this team is up and running full speed ahead. They haven't gotten there yet. I just hope that they can. And again, it's just a matter of finishing, right? Like you talk about the chances created and how dangerous they look, and they're just not getting the end result. And I don't know how big of a difference it is between getting the end result and not getting the end result, but it just feels like if they start to get that end result, you can start to roll off 3-goal games, 4-goal games, but they haven't been there yet. And look, everyone's going to say recent seasons this and recent seasons that. Every season's different. I don't play by these nonsense trends when you're turning over half the team and your entire attack is new and Pedro Amador played 6 games last year, whatever it was. I just don't go with these recent trends of what the team was last year or what the team was in 2022. This is this year's team. We're focusing on what the problem is now and how to address it.
Yeah, you didn't know if you were going to be getting into something like this morning, did you, Abe?
Look, I've already fired. Here's what the people don't know. I've already fired off 3 hours of live radio. We got to cry about a Cy Young Award winner who's throwing rosin bags faster than he's throwing fastballs. So I'm fired up. We're ready. I'm in playoff mode because of the Hawks got a game tomorrow. Like I'm ready to roll. And people, I don't know if they were ready for me today.
It's all good, brother.
Look, Spencer Schwellenbacher is going to win the Cy Young this year, and it's going to be tragic.
Hey,
because
man, I'll take it.
Yeah. Any port in a storm, brother. But yeah, it's a lot of it is just like I said. I think a lot of it is the collection of talent you have is very good. The youngsters you have are also very good, which is why I am very much the proponent of if guys are not going to give you the performance you're looking for, then go with the kids because they seem very interested in doing just that. Look, full marks to Tristan Muyamba, who struggled last year.
Yeah.
Was not good, and proceeded to once he got hurt, not be a guy who could get back on the field because Jay Fortune just basically took his cookies from him. Tristan reacted the right way this year. He's been good. Mm-hmm. I need more from Sleesh consistently. I'll tell you, man, the thing that I was begging for in that game, and I didn't get it till like the 87th minute, was Mateusz Klich absolutely putting someone on their ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not saying you punch somebody or bite someone. By the way, Luis Suarez bit someone this weekend.
It was a teammate. It doesn't count.
That's honestly what makes it even better.
Yes,
absolutely. But I'm not saying you got to hurt somebody, but this you got to get stuck the hell in on a time when you're in a game like this, when you're playing a team that has really no interest in playing. They don't. Call it what it is, man. Like you can spin it and say whatever you want. I've watched way too many of these Caleb Porter teams that even his comments after the game about like convincing the players to buy into it, like there was no interest in doing jack shit.
No.
Like you got your penalty and you were able to get out of there with a 1-0. Like, okay, I mean, it worked. You know, when people park the bus and bunker and break up play because it works. They wouldn't do it if it didn't work. But in a game like that, where the play is getting broken up, you're unable to find something, even though you're creating chances. You're getting hacked down in the midfield to the tune of 20 fouls with 2 yellows, and none of them were for persistent infringement. When you're getting that game, it shouldn't take to the 80-somethingth minute for someone to come off the bench and just put someone on their ass and try and change the tenor of things. Like I said, I'm not saying you got to punch somebody, but bring some fire. Damn, man.
I mean, look, I get that you want to bring the attitude and all that stuff, but like none of that's relevant to me if you're not able to score up top. Like you want to feel better about your team because you're stepping up to the physical challenge and whatever. Like fine, but like you're still behind. Like you're not, in my opinion, you're not behind because you didn't bring a physical mindset or physical attitude or go toe-to-toe with a team that was fouling you 20 times. Like finish your chances, man. And I think you'll start to see things go differently. I mean, I get what you're saying. You want to see a little bit more fight, but like, I just want to see chances created turning into goal created. Like that's the bottom line. Like, I think this team, and I mentioned this, I think this team is playing okay defensively. I don't think they're right now at the top of their game. And a lot of that had to do with mistakes from Derek Williams and some mistakes made on the road at Charlotte, not from Derek and whatever. But like this team's not a mess defensively. Like the breakdowns have been individual, not as a unit. You've had some bad luck, some bad bounces, a couple things like that. But like ultimately, the attitude for me is irrelevant. Like you just need to score goals, and that's not an attitude thing. I think it's just maybe a little bit of confidence, maybe certainly some chemistry. And quite frankly, a little bit of bad luck. And I think if you can get one or two of those things to change in the right direction, I still think this team can really move ahead quite quickly and start to rack up points. But they've got to get closer in terms of chances created turning into goals.
So, Abe, what else is going on now that we've held you over? And I apologize for that.
Well, no, I mean, look, I think we're all frustrated, and I mentioned this. We see this sometimes in other sports. Homestand didn't go the way you wanted, and I'm just hoping that a 2-game road trip against 2 difficult teams, and like we've seen this from the Atlanta Hawks all season long. I think at times we saw this from the Atlanta Falcons. Like, can United at least showcase that they can play up or down to the level of the competition? Obviously, against New England, they played down to the level of the competition, but a very difficult road trip. Philly and Orlando City, and you're looking to play up to your level of competition, and maybe that's the case, but getting away from home maybe is some good news for Atlanta United. I'm actually going to be out this week. I'm on a vacation with my father, but Garrett will have you for a pregame and postgame on Saturday, and just like always, going to be on 92.9 The Game. He's got Madison Cruz hanging out there with him, so you'll be covered head to toe with the Soccer Down Here family. And I look forward to watching this one kind of from afar and seeing if they can just convince. Like, I see all these messages that we got going on there, and it just feels like one win on the road can kind of change things. And we'll see if they can put that together Saturday night.
All right. So it's another minor league baseball or another baseball tour with your dad?
Yeah, minor league baseball. We're actually heading to Charlotte, and so we'll see the Charlotte Knights. We'll see the Durham Bulls. Might even check out Greenville. We'll see if we stop by on the way back. But yeah, it should be pretty fun.
Obviously, my friend.
See if you can hit the bull and win a steak.
Yeah, hit bull, win.
I'll
steak.
work on it.
Hit bull, win steak. Hit grass, win salad. That's how it always goes. As always, my friend, great to see you on Mondays. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yep. See you, fellas. Thanks.
All right. There goes Abe. And I know that we kept him long. And I know that everybody there at Colony Square is going to sit there and go, where were you? And Abe's going to have to sit there and say, well, I was kind of busy.
No, Mike's probably sitting in his office going, you just finished, didn't you? Because Mike is also in the mode of getting ready for the Atlanta Hawks to do some very stupid basketball things. Because to his point, I watched that Hawks team lose 2 games to the Washington Wizards this year, who were an abominable franchise, and then beat the Cleveland Cavaliers twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can never sit here. I will never endorse the Atlanta cannot go on the road and beat Philly. I think it was 2 years ago. Was it last year or 2 years ago? They went up to Philly and went down like 2 or 3-0 and damn near came back and won it. Yeah. They're too. Part of being maddeningly inconsistent is that at some point you're going to do really good, stupid things. The part that's going to make you want to pull your hair out is the fact that
you get the bad.
It's just not going to be. Cause you might get that in Philly. Like if you told me in Philly or Orlando, one of the two, they put together the most complete performance of the season and get a road win that is one of your signature performances of the year, and then follow that up with something mind-numbingly frustrating, I would buy that for $10 because that's right now that's who they are.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about this morning. I know everybody's fired up. Okay, so Abby wanted Miggy's stats. So here's Miggy's numbers from Saturday. 90 minutes. The XG plus XA is a 0.73. 2 shots on target, 1 shot off target, 1 blocked. 1 successful dribble, 61 touches. 71% accurate passing at 27 to 38. 3 of 4 on his long balls, 4 of 8 on his ground duels. And fouled 3 times, and that's Miggy's numbers. So there you go. So Abby wanted Miggy's numbers on the day. Punched a 7.1, which puts him in the higher range of folks.
I know it didn't count, but it's one of the prettiest finishes of the year.
Yeah.
Wrapped his foot around a ball.
Yep.
Really nice.
Yep. Brad at a 7.9. Brooks at a 7.8. Miranchuk at a 7.2. Miggy, Sleesh, and Gregerson at 7.1. Tristan at a 7.0, and then everybody else was in the 6s. So that's your rundown. We'll go into individual numbers if anybody else wants them. So there you go. So that's
he had a couple turnovers that were bad, man. And like I said, everybody did. Like right now, it feels out. It feels. I said in the Discord, it feels like watching someone play music and they're like 1/16th note behind the beat. And you can hear it, and it's going to drive you up a wall.
Yeah.
So because Tom's touching on this, this was one of my concerns when you brought Miggy back, is that Almiron is this is 2025 version. And I'm not saying anyone here had this, so don't get defensive. If you were expecting 2018 Miggy, I have bad news for you. He's not that guy anymore. He's just not the same player.
Yeah.
And you weren't asking him to do the same things. If you decide to go get wild, I know there is the push to have the push to have Miggy play as the 10, have Maranchuk plays the 8. You better go get a destroying 6 then, because you're going to hemorrhage goals more than you already are if you do that. Because Maranchuk is like, you're asking him to play a deep lying playmaker. I'm good with that. I think that fits him well. You need to make sure that you have a killer 6, and I don't think that's Tristan's game. I don't think that's Bart's game. I think Jay can do it.
Yeah.
But that's just like, you need a different kind of 6 to sit, man. Like, because you are going to hemorrhage chances in that situation. Not to say that guys won't try and defend, but you're going to need like a flat out destroyer to pull that off. And if you can do it, and if you decide to do it and take risks, I'm not opposed to it, but that's just something you got to consider about it.
And
because like it's the same thing with like, hey, let's bring this back. It's the same thing like with watching the New York Yankees at times last year and in the World Series, where they decided, what if we had this amazing offense? Great. What next? What about defense? We'll worry about that. What's the worst that could happen?
you get outscored 11-10.
Well, no, the worst that could happen is the World Series, where the Yankees just basically refuse to play defense consistently, including your center fielder just dropping a ball and your pitcher actively refusing to cover first base on a ground ball to the first baseman that wasn't going toward the bag.
That was ridiculous.
Oh my God. My blood was boiling when everyone was blaming Aaron Judge for that, as if Garrett Cole doesn't literally do one of the first things you do in spring training is PFP.
Mm-hmm.
Ball hit the first base, but if he's going away from the bag, or if it's a runner with speed, you get to the line and you get to the first base line, and then you cut up and you run along the line to the first base bag, and you make yourself available for your pitcher.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. No, I one of the drills that we did when I was in ball. That's what you did when you were a pitcher. Ball's in between first and second. First baseman can't get to the bag in time. You as a pitcher are to run a straight line to the first base side, and then run up or run an arc and get there and make sure that you're in line and you're following the guy to first base. Point
being, you have to keep in mind the defense with it.
Yes.
And Derek, I don't mean like that I don't mean that it is a flat out poorly constructed roster because you don't have a destroying 6. Like what you had in mind was to play with those guys interchanging, and it doesn't. They do not seem to be interchanging in rhythm. So if the way to make it work is going to be to do that, then you need to have someone who can sit back and be an absolute wall defensively. And if that's not what you were expecting, that's not what you were expecting, and that stinks. But
and then if you do,
you intended to play with two holding midfielders back there, and let everyone else get forward. But if that's not working, you got to make adjustments, and you got to figure some stuff out. You're going to have to start like shaving puzzle pieces.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very annoying.
Does it turn into a 3-2-3-2? Does it turn into something like that? Do you start with your 3 center backs? And if you want your marauding 6 and you think that Jay's doing it, then that means that somebody's sitting, unless you're going to have like 17 midfielders and play like a 3-17-2-1. So there's going to be questions when it comes to the lineup. If you want to do certain things, then you're going to have to rearrange your cards and figure out, okay, well, if I want my 6 and I think it's Jay and it's a solo 6, then somebody's sitting. And so that's what you're looking at here. It's not just, if then, it's okay, if it's not this, then it's this, and then you've got to figure out all these other pieces and how they're going to try and fit.
Yeah, it's not that simple. It's unfortunately, and I think because here's the thing as well. When we saw it in preseason, everybody was excited. Mm-hmm. And what you were seeing in preseason was what the basic structure of what you've done this year. Mm-hmm. It's not like you practiced something in preseason This isn't Ted Lasso where you decided to change your entire philosophy and went to like Dutch total football in the span of a week and made it work because it's a fictional TV show.
It's an episodic characters. So one episode you get.
Yeah, but it's not like you went through preseason doing one thing and decided to just do an entirely different thing in the season. I have no idea how to fix them though, and if I did, I'm sure I would not be sitting here. But I'm also not sure how, I'm not sure how they go about dealing with that. And Abe and I will disagree with it. I'm still angry about the lack of a fight. And and honestly, John, for me, it goes back to the Nashville game last year. We talked about, the performances that were lackluster under Rob Valentino. That Nashville game at home where you lost, I think 2-0, was one of the most disappointing performances I've ever seen from anyone in an Atlanta United shirt.
Yeah.
Because you lost to what was an objectively bad Nashville team and then proceeded to get manhandled by them. Like they were throwing tackles at you, trucking your guys from behind,
And you had
knocking guys down left and right, and nobody did a damn thing about it.
No.
This goes back to like, y'all want to take it back to like another sport again. Back in the day when the Falcons had these issues after Harvey Dahl left, where like Matt Ryan would get roughed and there was no offensive lineman like coming up to fight somebody. Nah, you got to protect your quarterback. And if in that game was Ronald Hernandez, I think got absolutely annihilated. If Ronald Hernandez is getting annihilated with a cheap shot, you don't have to go throw a punch, but you better damn well be in somebody's face and ask them if they want to have a problem about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you have those balls right now. That's not okay for me.
And that to me is another issue. It's well, and then when Bart comes in hour number 2, and we'll discuss the after effects of that particular incident. With
Tom, you might want to put it on mute, bud, because we are going to have to talk about not just that game. We'll talk about other officiating, but we are literally bringing Bart on. And we always talk about officiating. So.
Yeah. Well, and so Tom,
this is just a fair warning, Tom.
Yeah. Well, but Tom, I want Tom and others to understand that we are working 2 lanes of traffic. We're not combining the issues to create one thing to talk about. We're talking about instances that happen, understanding where pro is coming from, looking at the laws of the game, and understanding things philosophically. It happens to be in the context of the Atlanta United match, but I'm pulling it to the side. I'm not, the match itself is one thing. Understanding where officials are coming from with their calls and understanding the laws of the game so we can all look at the game better. That's where Bart comes in these discussions. Yes, Bart does come in with opinion. Yes,
Bart's going to be mad about the team in general, so you'll get that too.
Yeah, so you'll get Bart's displeasure. But what I wanted to do and what we do with this segment, it so happens at this time it's going to be more focused about events that occurred inside the Atlanta United match. Yeah. It's to understand where referees are coming from, where the decisions are being made, and specifically involving review and laws of the game and where it comes in. It's not necessarily putting the fault on the official. It's understanding where the official is coming from and understanding the laws of the game. So in the future, we can all be more informed when it comes to events like this. That's what we're talking about here. It's 2 lanes of traffic. It's not going to be blending them together. It just so happens that it's in the Atlanta United match and it gives us things to talk about. So that's why we do it.
Yeah. And again, it's the 2 lanes of traffic thing is also the fact that, yeah, like it's, well, Emilio, in this case, it's understanding why the call was made as well. And this is also why one of my favorite things every week and why I get really pissy with this league and with pro. One of my favorite things every week is the Saturday when they do like the inside video review where they talk about, here's the VAR calls that happened this week. And sometimes, not consistently enough, but sometimes they'll like post the audio and the video of you can hear the VAR and the center ref talking about it. And that's what I want more of. I want that transparency, and not just transparency, so we know what they're saying. This isn't like a black helicopter conspiracy of I need to know what they're saying, so they're going, hey, we gotta rig it against them. No, none of that shit. It's a hey, what was the process? That's what they're looking for. That's why they called that. Now we know going forward, hey, if we get another situation like that, this is what we need to look for as fans, because the laws of the game are changing every couple of years. And they update descriptions and definitions, and we need to be, as fans and as people in our case who are just people yelling at clouds, we need to be aware and need to be educated on,
and that's where we are.
Why. Like, why did you made that call because X, Y, and Z. Absolutely the right decision. Cool, now we know for the future. Yeah, man, like, we'll talk. Yeah, so yeah, we'll talk about the calls.
Yeah.
We'll figure out like why they were made, what was the logic behind it. Cool. And again, I am happy to keep talking about the fact that I am disappointed with, and it's not the be all end all. Like my complaints about the physicality are not the be all end all. Obviously, you have to put the ball in the back of the net. That's not the be all end all, but that is one of my complaints. Is that like I wanted in a game like that where I felt like New England was doing what New England was going to do, in that they got stuck in the middle of the second half. They had like I think like 5 or 6 fouls in in a hilarious short amount of time. They are able to break up play, and it's hard to build a rhythm when play is getting broken up constantly.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to break up play on you and knock you down every time you try and, you want to dribble? You start going to the midfield. Okay, you played a pass, and it's not a true transition moment, so it's not going to be a yellow card situation. How do you deal with that when a team is just going to be like bashing your skull in?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. Because, if persistent infringement is going to get called, and that's at the discretion of the official, John, there are times for me, like, I'm taking matters into my own hands, brother.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to deal with this, and not to say you're going to go fight somebody. Like I said, you're not saying you're going to go fight somebody or try and hurt somebody, but you're going to get stuck in a tackle. You're going to throw somebody down. And if you got to eat a yellow card to do it, even if you feel like you shouldn't have got a yellow card, if I got to eat a yellow card to do it, and if that wakes people up or maybe changes the tenor of the game a bit, then so well be it, man. Like, yellow card received and mission accomplished.
Yep. And I mean, to your point, you're going into 2 matches on the road in Philly, and we know what Philly's going to bring to the table. Philly's going to be the same thing. It's going to be Red Bullsian with Bradley Carnell with a bit of a twist. So we know what we're going to have with Philly. With offense and Ty Barabo, it's almost like 2 separate things. It's like they've cut a line, and it's like there's the Philly part, and then there's this offense that we were trying to figure out how to do.
But Philly's going to be weird too, man, because Daniel Gazdag's gone.
Yeah.
Like, Daniel Gazdag was one of those difference makers for Philly. They just shipped him over to Columbus for $4 million for whatever the hell reason. I'm sorry, Rich.
Sorry.
Sorry, Rich.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why Philly does some of the things they do. Like, my concern for people like Rich, the Philadelphia fans of the world, as there are a few of them.
Yeah.
My concern for Philly is that they are going to basically end up being what Red Bulls were before last year, which is a team that's going to put together some really good stretches, some really rough stretches, because that's just part of the style, I think. But then I'm worried they're not going to have that difference maker. Like, Emil Forsberg was that difference maker for Red Bulls. Like, that guy who could grab the game by the throat that Red Bulls missed for years. Like, they went years without having that guy, and they tried so hard to make it work, but Philly had it. Like, go back to the MLS Cup final against LA. Philly had those difference makers. And if that MLS Cup haunts you the same way like the Super Bowl haunts me, I don't blame you. because it was there. It was yours to win. You had it, and Gareth Bale got off the back nine just long enough to ruin your hopes and dreams, and that stinks. But I worry that Philly's not going to have those difference makers when push comes to shove in the playoffs. But they're winning games right now, so that's nice.
Yeah. Oh,
Actually, I think they lost this weekend. I think they lost in New York.
Oh, Philly?
Did they? Or it was a 1-0. Did they win or lose? It was 1-0.
Hang on.
Philly's been kind of weird. Philly's been weird, but again, I think it's that style. Like you're gonna have good and bad.
Yeah, you are, and I mean that's just you're gonna have
pressing.
You're gonna have Ty Barbo scoring like 9 goals, in 4 matches, and then it's gonna be shut down completely. Philly lost to NYC 1-0.
Yeah, man. Okay, so this is the other thing I wanted to get. One of the other things that made me mad, John.
Yeah.
Go back to that New York game in Atlanta. The one where everybody had their stomach pumped.
Yes.
I said as that game ended, that was the kind of game that can galvanize a locker room. Like you're down by 2 goals, you come back. That was the kind of thing that that can galvanize a locker room. And then to draw and lose the next home matches, it just feels like you let the air out of the balloon as quickly as possible. And it's disappointing because on the back of that New York game, that felt like the kind of game where you look back on it and like, oh, that's when things turned around. And it just didn't, man. That's disappointing.
Yes.
Because it felt like those should have been the moments.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
No, I mean, no, you're on a roll. I'm just sitting here and letting everybody. What I also like to do with Reaction Mondays is just let everybody speak their piece, whether it's in the Twitch pitch or guests that come on the show. I just say your piece, get it off your chest because I don't want you to hang on to it. It's counterproductive to the physical and emotional well-being. So look, whatever's on your mind, get it off your chest. Monday, Tuesday, that's what it's there for. Just get it vent and go. I mean, because you don't want to hang on to something that's just bad juju if you hang on to something and it's all there. But just get it off your chest. That's what Reaction Mondays are for. And you've been reacting quite well this morning.
I'm just sad.
Well, I would.
It should, but it should. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. It should have. That felt like the kind of thing that would have galvanized you. And then the Dallas game felt more like a microcosm of the season than this did. I think it's the thing for me. Like my frustrations, obviously, about getting stuck in on stuff, and my issues with like Caleb Porter teams in general, notwithstanding. Modern Caleb Porter, like Portland Caleb Porter, was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My issues with all that basically being that Dallas game felt more like a microcosm of Atlanta than this did, because that Dallas game was you got the early penalty, great. You dominated the first 45 minutes. Like, you should have absolutely blown Dallas out of that game. The second half should have just basically been for kicks and giggles. And you didn't. You didn't finish it off.
Yeah.
That to me felt more like the issue that we've seen this year of a team that is really good early in games, can't put teams away, let them hang around, somebody makes a mistake, and all of a sudden you're not winning games.
Mm-hmm.
So that one felt more like it to me. And this one just felt like we gave up a dumb penalty and had a really weird game against a team that really had no interest in playing. And it being on the back of all the other stupid stuff just made it so much worse, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, time to bring in Bart, because Bart was it's like I caught Bart by surprise. He was doing something in the green room and I thought he was diving off camera. All right, time to bring in Bart. It's hour number 2. And Bart, this morning it's been interesting because
I'm sad, Bart.
Yeah, Jared is sad. He's also pissed off. And what I want to do with you, in addition to talk about PTJ and another big FA Cup is get into
Happy things, John. That's a happy thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Rory McIlroy won the Masters, and it was a
Rory
really cool
got his
moment.
Grand Slam.
He looked that was such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
I'd love
Seeing
to
that guy drop to his knees crying after he so my complaint being this morning that like Bryson DeChambeau is complaining to Yahoo like, oh, Rory didn't talk to me the entire time. Like, yeah, Rory's trying not to throw up the entire time because he's actively choking away the Masters, hitting an amazing shot and then choking it back and alternating on the last 5 holes. He was just trying to throw up, brother.
He's kind of focusing on something that ain't you.
Yeah. He didn't want to talk, and he has a green jacket. You did want to talk, and you choked on the back 9.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Bryson probably needed to focus a little bit more on his own play. That's for sure.
Yeah. So here's Rory's back 9. By the way, birdie, bogey, par, double, bogey, birdie, par, birdie, bogey. That's his back 9.
Yeah. And that double was unnecessary at best.
Double was one of the worst shots I've ever seen in my life.
Humboy just needed to stay dry.
Didn't happen.
I was listening to it. I will say the golf coverage, especially on the Masters, on radio, is really awesome. Mike Tirico anchored that coverage. I was listening to it on my way back from refereeing last night.
Yeah.
And props to Mike Tirico, man. I think he's probably, for my money, the best play-by-play guy out there. And then you get the TV commentary with Jim Nantz, who is definitely the best when it comes to golf. That was fun.
Hello, friend. All right. So what we want,
John, what are we talking about this morning?
Speaking of up and down performances.
Yeah. Well, what I want to do is, and I mentioned this in hour number 1 is leadoff, is when we do cards and calls and reffing down here, I want it to be an education. I want it to look at the philosophy of officials and get into the thought.
John, how am I supposed to teach theory when they don't teach practice? You know,
and that's that's what Derek said in the chat this morning. So what this may end up being is trying to get inside the head of Alexis De Silva and apply it to the.
I don't think. Well, okay. Oh boy.
But like I said, what I want to do is
Art has a dusty tome that he's going to pull out of like a hole in the wall that just. When he opens it, the souls in the damned escape.
Right. I feel like that's what's going to happen. I used to, so back in a previous life when I was in grad school, I tutored the student athletes at WVU. That was my grad assistantship, if you will.
Right.
And because at Lenore Ryan University, they made us take at least 2 philosophy classes on top of the political philosophy class I had to take for my poli-sci degree. I got to tutor a lot of kids in their philosophy classes. All that to say is it don't mean shit if you don't apply it.
Right. So,
and that's where I think we're at today with this particular conversation.
Right.
On multiple levels. And I hope we do go through the physical thing we saw happen on the field, right? Of offside.
Yes.
But then further, I think the more philosophical conversation, and I'll shout out Rob Usry, who's kind of doesn't like to talk referees, but I think he hit the right tone with this, is why was VAR intervening here? And I think that is the philosophical conversation we do need to get into, is clear and obvious error.
Yes.
Where was the clear and obvious error here?
Right. And so let me see if I've labeled the play correctly, and if I haven't, I'll dump out of it. But this is the play that I wanted to get into to discuss things. And our starting point here with cards and calls and reffing down here, if I'm not mistaken, this is, let me see, I think it's Josh and Jamie on Apple TV and Season Pass.
ATLUTD trying to put it in on the surface. Amador. Another cross going back post, flicked away by Beeson. Almiron. Miguel Almiron!
Get into Almiron so quickly. Just touch it back first time. It gives him the space, and his body positioning to open up as he receives it sets it perfectly in mind.
And this is still being checked. This is going to VAR for possible offside.
And so what happened in this moment was when that ball initially came in from Latte Lot, the player who received it for Atlanta was offside. So now before it gets to Almiron, there has to be a decision, but I think that ball was intentionally played back, which should negate the offside. That was an interesting decision. The ball went the other direction.
Review. Number 18 was offside position prior to the goal. Final decision.
So Jamie was on it from the absolute beginning on the call from Apple TV Plus. All right, let's go from the beginning. Let's walk through it. So, all right. So the part in question is in Josh's call where he says the ball is flicked away by Tanner Beeson.
Correct.
That is in Josh. I'm using Josh's words here since we're audio. So Josh says the ball was flicked away by Tanner Beeson, and that was the defining action of this particular call. I'm not going to get to VAR yet, but that is why it was referred to as offside.
Correct.
Now, we got into the discussion. I wanted to get into the idea of deliberate action, and that is where I think the defining idea is here, is defining action versus basically self-defense. So run through the differences first, and then we'll apply it to what happened in the match this weekend.
So here, let's start with what happened as we saw it on the field, right? And the fact that there was a bad cross sent into the box. Shocking. That was storyline for Atlanta on that day. And the defender, in some form or fashion, gets in the way of the ball, causing a deflection that goes to an offside Pedro Amador. Pedro was in an offside position when the ball was originally kicked by his teammate. What we are looking at here is, why did that ball get to him? Because if it was a pass from a kick from his teammate, right, he would be in an offside position.
Okay.
In this incident, the defender, I have a lot of issues with this, mainly physics.
We got time. Break them down. It doesn't matter.
Mainly physics, but the defender in this case, the ball clearly hits the defender.
Yeah.
And then the ball goes not just through his legs or close by. It makes a very
direct,
long travel to Pedro Amador. And I think that, to me, is where I'm going to get the most problematic, like, with this interpretation.
Okay.
So when we talk about a deliberate action, so the laws of the game say a player in an offside position receiving the ball from an opponent who deliberately played the ball, including by deliberate handball, is not considered to have gained an advantage unless it was a deliberate save by the goalkeeper, right? So we know that if the goalkeeper saves it, you can still be offside. We know that part. Deliberate play, excluding deliberate handball, because that would obviously be a free kick, is when a player has control of the ball with the possibility of passing the ball to a teammate, gaining possession of the ball, or clearing the ball by kicking or heading it. That is, parentheses, an example. If the pass, attempt to gain possession, or clearance by the player in control of the ball is inaccurate or unsuccessful, which I think we can all agree that clearance was both inaccurate and unsuccessful.
It looked like a media game clearance, as someone who makes media game clearances.
Yes.
If the possession or clearance is inaccurate or unsuccessful, this does not negate the fact that the player deliberately played the ball. So that is the general thing. Now we need to get into more of the kind of referee training part of this. The following criteria should be used as appropriate of indicators of when that a player was in control of the ball and as a result can be considered to have, quote, deliberately played the ball. The ball traveled from distance and the player had a clear view of it. John.
Yeah.
The cross shot, whatever, traveled from outside of the box to about 2 feet in front of the 6, right?
Yeah.
And as far as I know, that player, the defender, there was no one really in between him and the shot. So I think that is very clearly a criteria met for a deliberate action.
Okay.
The ball was not moving quickly. This one, you could have a little bit of, it wasn't like it was just passed to him. It was moving somewhat quickly. But I think when you look at distance traveled, it wasn't that quick. The direction of the ball was not unexpected. I mean, look, again, I can joke about Atlanta United putting in bad crosses or whatever you want to talk about.
Do that all day.
But that was
and those jokes will land better than the crosses will.
I mean, they did. But I don't think that the direction of the ball was not unexpected, right? You're defending from a cross/shot from the top of the penalty area. That's not unexpected. The player had time to coordinate their body movement. I.e., it was not a case of instinctive stretching or jumping. Now, I do think that you could say this was instinctive stretching or jumping, right? Like that's totally a fair thing. But I think when you look at the distance traveled and the speed the ball was going at, and also the fact that he clearly stretched to try to block a shot or clear the ball, one of the two, right? Like this was an intentional, in my opinion, act. Now, intention doesn't matter, but I'm saying from my view, as someone who has played this game for 30 years, this was intentional.
Just lead into
right?
it, buddy. We're all getting old.
Right,
It's okay. We're all getting up there, man.
Right. I've been playing this game since I was 4, so it's been a while.
Hey, you're here
Again, intention doesn't matter. We're talking deliberate versus intentional. We can talk about John. You can go argue with all the other English scholars about intentional versus deliberate. But anyway, for me, it was intentional. But we don't care about intentional. We're looking at deliberate.
Right.
I think that the player had time to coordinate their body movement. This clearly looked like an attempt to deliberately affect the flight and travel of the ball in some manner that was more than just deflect a shot. That's what we're kind of looking at here, right? Like, it's not like he's just getting in the way to deflect a shot. The ball is outside of his frame of body, right? He has to take a step and a lunge to get it.
Yeah, he's fully extended.
There were multiple deliberate actions here, in my opinion.
Yeah. Beyond
just playing the ball. And the other one, John, and this is where when we talk about two things that we talked about specifically in this training, playing with our feet or legs, specifically.
Yes.
We give less benefit of the doubt to the defender. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the sport is played with our feet and legs. So a header, we're not as yes, if you're trying to head the ball, that can be deliberate, but we're understanding that heading the ball is kind of like we're just trying to make a defensive action and let's see what happens. Not as much in control. Whereas when the ball is at our feet in a sport of soccer, we assume some level of control can be had because that's how we play this sport. The last part is important to me here. The ball moving on the ground is easier to play than a ball in the air. Now, John.
Yes, sir.
Was this ball on the ground or in the air?
Oh, I would say yes to both at times during the play, but specifically when Tanner Beeson touched it, where was it?
It was very much to me a on the ground situation, right?
Okay.
Like, I mean, again, this was not something he had to control with his chest. Like the ball was not above his waist.
Yeah, it's below
at any real point,
Right. Yeah.
I just genuinely think that this was a missed opportunity, a missed call. Now, we do have provisions that, they maybe could have said this was a save. I don't think this is a save because while it was an attempt to stop a shot, I don't think this was one of those times where this was just get in the way of a shot. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. It does.
And I think his actions leading up to that, to me, indicate intention to try to clear the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we talk about deliberate play, again, ball is on the ground. He is trying to play it with his feet To me, he is in control of this. Whether or not he actively does it well, it says it in there. The clearance doesn't have to be successful.
The fact that
Just
you
because
did,
you're bad at soccer doesn't mean the offside is negated.
because you
right?
performed the act itself doesn't matter if you're
Correct.
good or bad at performing the action.
Correct. I think that is my problem. The other thing, so that is the problem with the call on the field. But here's the thing. The call on the field was no offside. So whether or not the AR saw that Amador was in an offside position or not, or whether or not the AR assumed, well, that looked like an intentional, deliberate action, right, from the defender, deliberate play. The call on the field was no offside. So that brings us to part 2.
Okay. Part 2.
VAR.
Yes.
And that's my question here is why did VAR intervene in here when this did not seem like a clear? Because if there's debate over whether this was an attempted clearance or a save, right? Because we talked about that. Save could be you just get in the way of a shot. If there's even a debate of that, well, this is not clear and obvious then. So I'm going to get to Michael Head's comments in a second when John allows me to put on my fan hat. But for right now, as a referee, I think the problem here is you can debate whether or not this was a deliberate action, right? I don't think it's that debatable. I think it's very, in my opinion, clearly a deliberate action on the ball and an attempt to clear the ball, right? He had the time. He had control of his body to do it, and the ball was on the ground, right? Feet, this was an attempted clearance with his foot. That's number one. The ball was on the ground. It came from a far distance. All these things that we kind of go through. This was a deliberate play, right? It just so happened that his bad clearance went to Pedro Amador.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like just because the clearance is bad doesn't mean it wasn't
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't
Does
matter.
not
It wasn't a clearance, and it doesn't matter that it went to a player who was in an offside position. At the time of
Correct.
the impact.
So that is my issue then is why did VAR intervene?
Because, as we always say, and what is always told to viewers/listeners, it has to be a clear and obvious error for VAR to intervene in a play.
So my issue here is, John, clearly and obviously Pedro Amador is in an offside position.
Check.
I think we all agree that, right?
Check.
We're not debating that. The problem is the action by the defender is neither clearly nor obviously a save or a deliberate action. At very best, we can say it's somewhere debatable, which therefore means it's not clear and obvious an error. It is not clearly and obviously an error from what the decision on the field was. And Alexis de Silva screwed it up. That's just, I'm sorry. I don't have anything better to say about it. He deserves to be reprimanded for a lot of things in this game. He poorly managed the game from start to finish. And I'm sure we'll get into a penalty kick call later or a lack thereof.
Yeah.
Because, John, you were talking on the post-game show and I was nodding
Which
along.
one?
Well, the 92.9. While I was both yelling at people in front of me to move their butts in the line to get out of the parking lot, I was agreeing with you, John, because, but we'll get into that.
Yes.
The point is, Alexis de Silva did not get this correct. VAR should not have intervened, and the goal should have stood. Period. End of story. I'm sorry. That is not, in my opinion, controversial. That is not a homer take. This was a bad application of the laws of the game and VAR procedure. And Alexis de Silva and specifically, I'm calling him out because he was bad the entire game. I counted 3 times before halftime, John, that he told the New England goalkeeper to let's play.
Oh, Ivicic, yeah.
Ivicic. Did he ever get any real warning for a yellow card?
I believe the answer to that would be
damn well that as soon as Brad Guzan would have wasted 2 seconds on a goal kick, yellow card to him. And this continues my issue with referees clearly not understanding what the hell a player is trying to do on the field.
Okay, so now that we have gone through that particular play,
do you want to put your fan hat on, or do you want to talk about your BK question?
No, I'll talk about the fan. I'll do the fan hat after we've talked
because
okay. Yeah, no, do both. I'm fine.
Because we have Well, you got 40 minutes. We got 45 minutes here.
What my fan had is just he was terrible all game.
Yeah.
Right? My referee had is he did not manage the game well,
Right.
from start to finish.
And
Because
so
it's something we'll talk about when it comes to penalty kicks.
right. So we'll get to the penalty kick in a bit because that's down the line. Game management.
Yeah.
I want to get into when it comes.
There's another term we talked about. It was the word of the day, John.
Yes, game management. when you have I frankly do not know how Alexis De Silva manages a match. And I don't know if
That's the neat part. He doesn't.
Yeah,
well,
I
yeah.
think that's Jarrett's right.
So I mean, what was it? Was it pro
So
referee?
there were 30 fouls called in the game total,
Yes.
which is a lot, even for what's his name that we had against Cincinnati. That would be a lot for him.
Yeah.
Because he loves.
You had also Rosendo Mendoza. I think was 27 and a half.
Yeah, 30 fouls is a lot of fouls to call in a game.
Yeah.
Let's just
Noted quick trigger Chris Penso.
Yeah, right. That is a lot of fouls. Like clearly, when the problem is when the allocation is 10 to 20.
Yeah,
that's bad. And only one time that I see anything. So New England got 2 yellow cards. One was for a very deliberate foul. It seemed like, and I don't know if the other one was for.
The other one was for time wasting because it was in that series of fouls, and I thought it had been given for persistent infringement.
I thought it was too.
It was not. One of the players kicked the ball into Henry County after the whistle blew.
Okay, so then we don't talk about that. There was a time, John, that I think what stuck out to me was it was in the second half. It was not super late, but it was late enough. Alexi got taken out, and I mean taken out.
Mm-hmm.
There was no attempt to play the ball. To me, it was a very reckless challenge. And De Silva decides that instead of giving a yellow card for a reckless challenge, he warns the player, that's your third time, no more.
Yeah.
That is a yellow card foul.
Yeah.
That wasn't a persistent infringement. It wasn't because one thing, New England, the entire game got to just run people over with no real, punishment for it other than a foul. Sometimes, because there could have been way more fouls called. Let's just put it that way on New England. But that moment right there was an example of De Silva not managing this game well at all because it felt like he was so in over his head. He didn't know how to deal with this because that was a moment, I forget the player, but it was on Alexei Moranchuk, and it was in the middle of the field. But it was Moranchuk's running by him, and the guy just sticks his leg out and trips him. There was no attempt to win the ball. It was just trying to foul him. So it's not stopping a promising attack, but it's a reckless foul. It's a yellow card, especially that late in the game, right? When you can go, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
But instead, he tries to warn him about persistent infringement. We're past persistent infringement. One, that was your 28th fucking foul. Freaking foul of the game. Sorry.
Man, I already blew the I blew the language thing like
good. Okay.
To like a couple minutes in here, man.
The opening monologue, Jared already gave us the E, so it's all good.
Look at the standings, and I'm allowed to say that word.
Yeah. I mean, again, you are as good as your record is right now.
Yeah.
But that was not a persistent infringement thing. That was a yellow card foul in the moment. And he decided to talk about it. That just it showed how out of his I don't know if he was locked in or not. But like it was bad. It was just bad refereeing from start to finish. You can look, you're going to have games that are going to have a lot of fouls, right? Especially against New England and Caleb Porter. Caleb Porter is a bad soccer coach at this point in time. I don't know why people keep hiring him. He had great success in Portland.
His Portland teams were fun, man.
Yes. Name a successful stint he's had since then. You can't.
He won a cup in Columbus during COVID.
Oh, that's right. He did do that.
But that was also like, that was kind of at the leading edge to Columbus is actually spending money and doing fun things.
Yeah, that's right. He did win a COVID cup, so congrats.
Yes, he did. And that was also that team was very good.
Yeah.
But they were more defensive because he has gotten more and more and more defensive.
He has. I mean, you remember those. He just hasn't, in my opinion, been a great coach in quite some time. By
By the way, he won a game like this here a couple of years ago with Columbus.
Yeah.
It came to go back and look up. There's a game that Columbus beat Atlanta 2-0 at home. They scored in like the 3rd minute on a long ball that connected.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Then he basically shut up shop. They chose basically not to play and were just hitting long balls. Connected on another long ball late in the game and won it 2-0. And just they were time wasting from like the 20th minute.
Yep.
He had no it was, if I get an early lead, we're shutting up shop.
Yeah. That was like the Schmetzer match with Seattle at Mercedes-Benz as well. You have, we talk about game management and missing calls and misapplication of rules and VAR interventions, and it was all over the place when it came to this particular crew, and I'm going to, and I will go ahead and say this, I'm going to go ahead and send a note and ask about the review process. I want to know if it is a yearly thing.
Hopefully we get the Saturday inside the pro thing from Greg Barkley, but we'll see.
Inside the ref studio where it's a news.
Yeah.
Well, James Lipton should be brought back from the dead and host that, though.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
So, John, I do want to, before we move on too
yes,
far.
Lucas. Yeah, to David's point, Lucas Zelarayan was on those Columbus teams, and Lucas Zelarayan was basically a banshee possessed by the devil himself.
Correct.
And that Columbus team was unholy. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, Columbus was. I mean, you get one of the better. I mean, he has one now with Carlos Hill. I would love the entire game plan for New England is hope Carlos Hill does something brilliant.
Yes.
To be fair to Atlanta, he had one shot that was like, it really wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
John, I want to say this. How many fouls? How many fouls was the highest total do you think New England had coming into this game? Per one game, what was you think the highest total of fouls?
Oh, wow. Let's see. So I'm guessing this season, I'm guessing probably 16.
16. Yeah. That was in a loss to Columbus.
Oh wow, I got it right. Out of the block. Wow.
That was a loss to Columbus at home back in March 1st.
Okay.
16 is a lot of fouls.
Yeah, that's true.
20 fouls in one game. That's obscene. That's grotesque. And for the referee to only give 2 yellow cards is embarrassing.
So we talked about this. I talked about it after the game. God, I don't have enough headache medicine for this today to get shouted down on this, not by you two, but everyone else, not just people in the chat, but in the world. I have to get on an airplane in like a couple hours anyway. To your point, the thing that annoyed me about the game management side of it, and not just one particular call, but like the game management side of it is you have, and this goes to a thing with Red Bulls, with Philadelphia, all those things. You have to know who I think referees have to know who they're officiating.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if you're officiating Philly or New York, you're going to be in for like, oh my God, I'm going to have like blisters from blowing this whistle because I'm going to be doing it so much because everybody and their mother is going to be committing a foul today. But a Caleb Porter team is going to commit all of the fouls in this situation when they have a 1-0 lead on the road.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically refuse to, if Atlanta turned on the ball in the midfield, played more than one pass in the midfield, it was hack them down. It's hard to get I don't know how else to explain it. It's hard to get a flow in a sport that's built on rhythm when there is no rhythm.
Correct. Which was the entire point of their second half.
Yes. And that's not like to make an excuse because Atlanta should put the ball in the net. Yes, I agree with this. The thing that people keep yelling at me, I'm not disagreeing with you.
We haven't gotten to the fan reaction part yet. Well, you have, but we're talking refereeing at this point in time. Yes, I agree.
But it's tough. It's tough to build a rhythm when you're literally, anytime you try and build anything positive, that you just can't. We see it in basketball when, and we get pissed off in basketball if a referee starts getting a really tight whistle. It's like, let the game flow.
Well, but
we want to see the game.
By the way, De Silva averages, courtesy of our friends at Who Scored, I finally found it. De Silva averages 23 fouls per match called.
So he should have felt that this was a lot of foul. Like, seriously, as a referee, you should have an awareness of, oh, this is getting too many fouls. And you should also have an awareness of silly fouls the other one or either team are committing, because this happens all the time where a team does, they may not do it all the time, but it just comes up to a game where they're doing a certain thing a lot. And you're like, we can't be doing this, y'all. And at no point did he say, hey, you can't actually run through the back of a guy and go, I didn't foul him, because he called that a lot. John, another stat when it comes to fouls. Leo Campana,
yes,
on the field for 33 minutes, replaces Max Arudi, by the way, who got a yellow card.
correct.
Arudi committed 2 fouls in 57 minutes. Campana committed 3 fouls in 33 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a foul every 11 minutes on top of everything else.
Yeah.
No yellow card.
Right. Yeah.
That's one of those things. Is 3 fouls over the span of 90 minutes, like Matt Polster. Okay, sure. That's not 3 fouls in 33 minutes.
Mhm.
You committed 3 fouls after you came onto the field halfway through the second half, bro. You got to do something about that. And that kind of encapsulates Alexis de Silva's inability to manage the match that was played in front of him.
Yeah.
And I think it was Michael's thing about like if ownership complaining about pro and to pro. Look, one of the things that I think put Atlanta in trouble at one point in like 2019 was when Darren Eales used to do his weekly segment on 92.9. More than once, he went on 92.9 and put pro on blast. There was a sequence of games in 2019 where Atlanta got screwed by the whistle, and back then pro didn't have like the whole transparency thing about here were the calls this week. Apparently the league just reached out to Atlanta and was like, hey, our bad. Pros apologizing for this, and like did it quietly. And apparently Darren Eales used to just put that on blast for anyone who wanted it on the radio. Pro reached out to us this week and said they screwed up. Not that it does us any good now.
Yeah.
So they are ready. They've never really been afraid of doing that.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and that's the problem here is what are we going to get from pro? Oh, sorry. And this is where I'm going to pro. You need to do better at training your referees in week in and week out. Alexis de Silva needs to be meeting with someone to coach him through why this game, what happened, because I'm sorry, the application of VAR was terrible, but that's besides the fact that he managed this game poorly from start to finish. He just did. Especially, John, to your point that I loved when we were talking about the penalty kick that
didn't happen.
That Carlos Hill got, right?
Okay, this one, yeah.
I thought it was fine.
Because they're connected.
Yeah, they are.
Your point was, sure, it's a foul. And Abe is like, yeah, it's a foul. Yeah, it's a foul. Within the grand scheme of things, that was not a foul for New England multiple times, including a late game foul where Stian Gregerson is stepped on from behind, and then New England almost gets a second goal out of it.
So you mean
where was VAR to interfere in that place? That's what I want to know.
So you mean this play late in the match, courtesy once again of Josh and Jamie on Apple TV Plus and MLS.
Still alive. Gregerson goes down. There's no whistle. And now it's a breakaway for New England. Leo Campana for the Revolution. One-on-one with Guzan. Campana. It's taken by Guzan.
Yeah, so that was the play that's the play I think you were referring to.
Yeah. So if you're going to call that penalty kick for an offensive player who's, again, same thing kind of, right? Dribbling away from goal, out of the penalty area. But then you're not going to call it there.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
That is a lack of consistency. And again, why didn't VAR step in there? Was it not a foul? That's a clear and obvious error. But it's clear and obvious to call back a goal because you may or may not think that there possibly maybe it was a save versus a deliberate action.
Also, I'm going to put my broadcaster hat on for a minute.
Yep.
and bitch about the. I think, is it Luis Abram who comes back and makes that stop?
Yes, it is.
Luis Abram gets on his horse.
Oh yeah.
That's the only time he's ran in his entire career here.
Careful, sir.
Hey, Abram is a quiet little field mouse, but Abram isn't making bomb scare decisions like Derek Williams has been. So I'm good with it.
Yep.
To an extent. But dude, the broadcast, sold Luis Abram running 85 miles to take that ball off of him in a 1v1.
Yep.
What the hell? Don't no-sell that.
Yep.
Don't no-sell that. That's just, I was irate at the play-by-play call there. Of Guzan stops it. No, Luis Abram ran 85 miles and pulled it back and kept his team in it. I am still irate at the way that moment was called. And yeah, Guzan gets to it and turtles over it. Great job. That defender, in that situation, I've seen defenders say, screw it. I got better things to do with my life. Don't no-sell this dude running that far back and trying to keep his team in it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely awful play-by-play work, and you should be embarrassed.
Man.
That has nothing to do with the game. I'm just pissy about it right now because you get a cool moment like that and you no-sell that shit? No.
Jarrett's not allowing no-selling when it comes to effort late in the match. All right, so we have discussed VAR. We have discussed the laws of the game.
Or if nothing else, if you didn't see it and you didn't see the DeBron take it, then dunk on Campana for just being bad at his job. Because Leo Campana had
shocking.
A 60-yard
the guy did not.
run-up.
I mean, he dribbled that ball into Brad's chest. No offense to Brad. That was bad.
It was all dunk on him for that.
Oh man.
Then do that. I'm cool with it. But come on, man. You're no-selling that moment of a game. If Atlanta had gone down and found a late equalizer, you had nothing of that call to use as being a turning point where a defender backtracked his ass off to try and save things. Just come on. Give me the emotion the moment deserves, for God's sake. I'm not asking for a lot from you. But apparently I am.
Apparently you are, yes. So I'm trying to think of – so we talked about game management. We talked about the iniquity of calls. And that, to me, the lack of logic applied if – once again, I will stipulate that, to me, the Carlos Heel call was correct. It was just inside the 18. Where you call that for a penalty, I'm fine. I know that there were some angles where he gave you a bit of a question about contact and lack thereof, but no. But if you're going to call the Carlos Heel and that being soft, it was a bump, but it was soft. Then at the same time, that logic needs to be applied, and it wasn't across the board here in multiple.
Correct.
So that was not applied when it came to that. And then just the idea of game management where and I think that you're going to see in the next couple of matches on the road. You're going to see it in Philly because of how Philly operates. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw it in Orlando because Oscar Pereja is no dummy. He's going to look at film and he's going to sit there and go, okay, we can bump them around and it's not going to get called. And so you're setting an idea up the next couple of matches here where, okay, and I think that this is a test of pro and whoever's going to be in the middle here. Okay, so the teams were physical and it wasn't called until it was, and then it was too late. Mm-hmm. The other element that I have in here is this, among others, the Mateus Click yellow.
Loved it.
Well, he earned it. We talked about this. We talked about this part. I was happy with it. Yep. I needed someone to put someone's ass in the ground, and he ate that yellow, and good. Someone needed to do it. But someone needed to do it 40 minutes earlier.
But the issue separate from that, discussing it from a refereeing standpoint, is
he shoved him to the ground. It's yellow. I'm fine with giving him a yellow there. You're eating that yellow intentionally. You're eating that yellow to send a message. It's the right call. Call the yellow. It's fine. I have no beef with it. Sorry, John. I'm not debating that one being a yellow, man.
No.
Even against the flow of the game.
No, I'm not. I'm not debating the yellow either. I'm glad that Mateus Click ended up hip checking somebody and sending a message. But the notion that you're going to give that card that late and not considering the other action that happened in the match, you're going to give that yellow late to Mateus Click for what he did. But along the line of the match going backward for other events that were just as physical, you did nothing.
Right, and that again, that's my issue. Is there was at least 2 other obvious cautionable offenses that New England committed.
Yeah,
that were not cautioned.
Right.
Click did what he did because he knew what he was doing. Yeah. I'm gonna switch into fan mode real quick here because I'm sorry, I'm pissed as hell. That is the stuff that Bart Schleich needs to be doing. I'm real sorry. And
don't be, because I think we are about to have the same conversation.
Because I know Click has been sick again, right? The dude has not been healthy for 5 minutes since coming into Atlanta, apparently. John, I think my issue, and Jarrett, it seems like Bart Schleich is a very good soccer player. The dude is talented. He's got skill. My question just comes to, and this is where we're at the season, right? Because Jarrett, as you said, and as I've said plenty of times during the last couple of years when y'all swear to tell me that this team is good, you're only as good as your record shows.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right now, you are not a good soccer team because you are well below the playoff line. You don't win consistently at home. You're coughing up points at home, right? To bad teams. Dallas, okay, whatever. Still should have beat them, right?
I don't know if you were here when I said it earlier. Dallas felt like the real microcosm of the season, where you dominated the first 45 minutes, didn't put the game away, did something stupid, and and gave it away. This one felt more like just we are in Mr. Magoo land.
Correct. But you're a bad team right now. Sorry, you just are.
Yeah.
What does the record show? Because if we're calling New England a bad team, you're not that much better, and they just beat you. So, it is what it is. We haven't scored from open play. Now, you can debate if it should have counted or not, but haven't scored from open play in 2 damn matches. At some point, someone has to start making decisions because we're past the, be patient, they'll figure it out. I'm sorry, we just are. Because you're not getting results. And you can talk about, we're dominating matches, we're controlling matches, we've got possession, fine. You ain't winning. And I'm sorry, that just happens, right? Sometimes we see this in baseball all the time. Guys might be hitting all right, but you're not scoring runs. Sometimes you just got to adjust the lineup a little bit. You move someone to another spot in the lineup. In this particular case, Ronnie Diala has some big decisions to make, and it's one of 2 things. It's formation or personnel. Pick one. I don't think you do both. That would be a little too much, but one will probably also dictate the other. Mm-hmm. Are you going to change the formation from, the 4-3-3, whatever you want to call it? Are you going to change from that, or are you going to change players? Because if we're making personnel changes, I'm sorry, there were 2 to 3 players that I think you need to make changes on. One of them is Bart Schleich, because he just is not cutting it as a defensive midfielder. Sorry, it's just how it is. Sorry, that's just where I'm at. The other one, and as much as I love him, and I think the problem here is he is a fantastic offensive weapon, but holy hell, Brooks Lennon we need to figure out how to run an attack that's not through Brooks Lennon crossing the ball, because that was the sickness that had festered in this team all game. It was get the ball wide to Brooks, watch him cross the ball in. Where are we going? And then to Emilio's point, the next question is Alexi and Miggy, you can't be on the field at the same time. Sorry. You got to figure out who's starting. Because, and that's just what I'm looking at, because right now the problem is Alexi and Miggy both like to occupy more central spaces, and you're clogging things up. You're running into each other. You're not able to combine because you're too close to each other, which sounds counterintuitive. But when you start close to each other, the combination is going to work because you've got all the defenders there. It's just too easy to defend right now. And Atlanta United continues to create a lot of chances, but not a lot of quality chances. I mean, the goal we scored was a great goal, right? But that was a shot from distance, and that's not the type of quality chances you want to keep creating. You need to create more chances inside the penalty area. We're just not doing it.
Okay, go ahead,
Sorry.
Jerry. No, you're good.
So
No,
one of the things that stuck out to me in preseason, and listening, and look, I know as he does this for a living, I think Ronnie Dial is an incredibly smart guy. I think he's an incredibly smart soccer coach. He has, again, seen some shit in Celtic and in Scotland and in Belgium. He has been through some wars that I think I don't know if y'all fully at times understand how psychotic like the Scottish and Belgian media can be. Anything we do to him here is just going to be like a Sunday walk for that dude compared to what he's dealt with. I don't think that bothers him nearly as much as the performances. And I think he's a smart guy because what I'm getting at here is in preseason, one of the things he harped on in the Birmingham game specifically was he made a point of building up Schleich. He talked a lot about him, about what he wanted from him, what he needed from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he understood that he needed Bart, not you. I think he understood that he needed Schleich to be great. That was going to be a fulcrum with what this team did. And it hasn't been there.
And because I think, again, you can see he's very talented. He's actually pretty decent in possession. It's just, it's not, to your point, Jarrett, where it needs to be. And the other problem is, as much as I love watching him on the field, because he does move around a lot, Muyumba is not as dynamic when it comes to making progressive passes the way that Bart needs. So you're just not getting that a lot from that central midfield spot. And it's what's hurting. And then you add the fact that, I think if I could summarize this team in one sentence, it would be, we're very good at giving up stupid goals, but by God, we cannot punish a team for our lives. And teams make so many stupid mistakes in MLS. That's just how this works. MLS is not a great defensive league. We all know this. Atlanta United, every goal we've scored this season seems like it's some magic effort that we had to create, instead of just a lot of the goals that we get conceded where we beat one player and then all of a sudden we're in on goal against Brad and we've conceded. And that is the frustrating part, as the fan is going, why are we giving up goals so easily? Yet it's a monumental effort for us to get even a shot off,
Yeah, it's exhausting. Man, I don't know what you do, because I mentioned earlier, if you want, because I know it's been the article and it's been kind of the flavor of the last few weeks to do to play Miggy at the 10, dropped Alexei back to like a deep lying playmaker. I will repeat again, that's fun offensively.
Yeah.
But if you think you're shipping goals now, you don't have a destroying six who can sit back there as the other midfielder, and you're going to need that.
No. And that's one of those things, too, where we talk about patience, and I think there's patience versus, I do think we're approaching from a coaching even aspect of the patience of hoping things just gel and the system and everything takes hold. I think we're either past that or approaching being past that. Is that a fair situation evaluation? So then, Jared, I think for me, the question is, again, what does that change? Because I agree with you. I think Alexei being a deeper player, I think would be fun. I think actually
he'd be insanely good.
Yeah. Because, look, the dude is not fast. Bless his little heart. But he is not that fast.
Impossibly technical.
But yeah, and having that as a kind of an 8 or a deeper lying playmaker could be fun to watch. And then you have Miggy up top, which I do think that we've seen Miggy wants to be more central. And I think that's actually a better place for him to play in this league, because Homeboy can just blow by some defenders more than anyone else can. He loves to take someone on, and I think being able to do that in the middle of the field with a guy like Latte Lot, who if you just slip him, a nice little slip in can undo a defense because he's just so quick. Not even fast, quick. Dude is quick. I mean, it is fun to watch him get like somehow 3 steps on a player before the ball's been passed, And I just don't think Alexi is able to do that, whereas Miggy can. So that is certainly the question of what do you do with both of these really expensive, good attacking players?
I don't know.
I think it's also safe to say, Jarrett, that right now, again, 8 games into the season, 9 points. It's not great. I think if I could identify 2 things that we need to change, 3 things really. One is figure out who your attacking people are and where, because I think we've all agreed that Miggy and Alexi playing together is just not it's not creating the fluidity we thought it would. But I do think that when you look at the summer, because we know Garth loves the summer transfer window. We know Garth loves the summer transfer
this summer could be bloody, just so we're clear.
I think when you're looking at the summer, you have to look at 2 specific positions. And one of them is a defensive midfielder, and the other one is center back. Because I'm sorry, right now we have half of a starting center back. Because I'm going to call out Stian a little bit too. I think he's been good. But
he should be called out.
But I don't think he's been great. He's been culpable for some of these defensive errors. Luis Abram refuses to engage on a defensive action, and that annoys me more than anything. And Derek Williams can't judge the fly of a ball to save his life. So our center backs right now are not what they need to be competitive in this league, and it's causing more problems than it should, especially when Brooks and Pedro are going up the field so much. So when you look at the summer transfer window, which again, April, we're looking forward to June already, or July already, a better center back. And I mean, as much as we want to have pretty passing, great, you kind of just need a dude who's going to knock someone over now and then, and that's unfortunately what Bart's not willing to do. Maybe you go get someone like that in the transfer window.
You need a host. You would. I shouldn't say you need. It would be. I would be okay if you went and found a Jose Martinez like.
I think the problem is. Yeah, I think the problem, Jared, is that works in MLS. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
I mean.
And I'm with you on
you can try to play
100%.
like you're playing in the Dutch league, but you're not. You're playing in MLS. You got to have a destroyer.
Yeah.
Is there anything, Bart, that we missed when it came to laws of the game management?
Still think they missed that handball in the box, but whatever.
I'm with you, Jared. I think what bothers me is that wasn't reviewed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those that because I do remind people they review everything.
Yes.
Like VAR is not like sitting there with a sandwich and doing nothing with their time. They're looking
they might
at
be eating
stuff.
a sandwich, to be fair.
I would love if I was VAR, I'd be eating a sandwich all the time. But I'm also of the opinion that
on camera for that initial shot where they're inside.
Oh yeah,
and you're sitting there and you're just having a sandwich. Beginning of the match.
That's one of those where personally, I would have been very happy if we talk about this with like managing the game you're in. Take it to the monitor, just because the game is calling for it in that moment,
And yes, because there wasn't even the ref going up to his, even like, hey, they're checking. Because if you go, hey, they're checking, you go, no, it wasn't. Because again, is that clear and obvious?
That's the key.
I don't know, but then you're telling me that the offside was clear and obvious. So which one is it? If we're going based on what our gut tells us, fine. But that's not I'm with you, Jarrett. Like that to me, the handball, because it happened right in front of me.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell exactly how far away from the body his arm was, but it hit his arm.
I mean,
Yeah. I thought it was away from his body. I thought it would have been harsh.
I do too.
Because it's coming off a deflection, and maybe that's what their thinking was with it. But I felt like that was like one of those, like, you take it to the monitor or let them know, like, hey, they're looking at it.
Yeah.
But also, no one really seemed to notice anything until like the next seconds of play anyway. So whatever.
Well, and also to this is where Atlanta needs to take a beat too, because I think we get, again, game state. We're very frantic at that point. Settle down and wait to take that corner kick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Allow VAR and the referee an opportunity to have that
give him time to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, we see this in the NFL a lot of times where a team will wait a beat to get the play in.
Right.
You know? So
Or what they'll do is if they
Or-
think that it's going to get flipped, you're going to try to get up there and do a quick huddle and get a quick snap so that it doesn't get reviewed.
well,
Aaron
yeah.
Rodgers was so good at that when he was not like on his vision quest like a raccoon on
He wasn't
speed.
Yes. All right. So in cards and calls and anything else that we've missed now that we've discussed everything this week anyway, my plan is to try and catch up with Pro and just find out about the review process and find out, okay, how many times, is it at the end of the year? Is it a consistent thing? Do you call folks?
I would like to know that too. What is the continual education process? Because there should be.
Yeah. And so right now, just looking at the numbers, Alexis De Silva has had 6 matches where he's been the man in the middle, 23 on average. And that,
a lot for that, man.
Well, but the thing is, 23 is 18th out of 26. He is 18th out of 26 center reps for fouls per match called. And the number 1 is Elio Arreguin, who has only had 1 appearance in the middle, and he called 33 fouls. He is far and away.
What game did he have?
Oh, let's find out, shall we? It was Chicago Fire and CF Montreal, January, February, March 30th.
Interesting.
So he called the Fire and Montreal match and called 33 fouls.
Interesting. That was such a high foul game, but yeah.
Yeah, and after that, it's Rosendo Mendoza, who averages 30.8. Joe Dickerson, who averages 30 and a quarter. Philip Dujic, who's 28.14 over 7 matches. That's why it's a 0.14. And Ricardo Fierro at 27.5.
Mm-hmm.
We have had Rosendo Mendoza, Philip Dujic, and Ricardo Fierro in the middle for the matches against Atlanta United. And this was a point that was brought up in the chat, is that you would think that center refs know what they're getting into with the teams that are on the field. Yet, even if you don't have foreknowledge, at least, Bart, to your point earlier in this discussion, that if there's a lot of fouls being there are a lot of fouls being made, then you should kind of, I don't know, use your card a little more than you would otherwise.
Yeah, there were Atlanta United. The player that committed the most fouls was Pedro Almador at 2. No one else committed more than 1.
I was expecting to hear Emmanuel Latte-Lot, to be honest, because he is a bit of a spark plug when it comes to fouling.
So
he only committed 1 foul, and you know what that foul was?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you know why? Because Miguel decided to hang back offensively.
Here's your numbers in the middle of the match when Caleb Porter just decided to pack things up, go to the Laredo garage, grab as many MARTA buses as possible, and bring them on. So it was 7 fouls from New England in the first 11 minutes of the second half, 1 yellow. 20 fouls, 2 yellows. Between the 40th and the 60th minute, New England committed 10 fouls. So that's 5 minutes leading into halftime and the first 15 of the second half.
It was a lot, John.
New England committed 10 fouls.
That's a lot. And I want people to understand that is a lot of fouls within a short period of time, right? And he did nothing to manage that. And that's kind of, again, the problem is there was no, hey, call the captain over. Hey, that's enough. We fouled 2 minutes. Alexi got fouled 5 times.
Yeah.
5.
I don't know. Ezequiel Barco led the universe in fouls when he was here, and all I heard from people was complaining that Ezequiel Barco gets fouled a lot and goes down a lot. Well, Carlos Heel could have kept his. I said this during the game. Carlos Heel could have kept his footing in the box if he wanted to. Yep. He understood the moment.
Yeah,
he went down, which good for him. He understood the moment.
Yep.
Atlanta almost gave up a goal in the end of the first half where Emmanuel Latte-Lot got very clearly fouled, but he tried to keep his feet. And this is very much like the Alpharetta dad shit of like, keep your feet, stay up, fight through the contact.
Alpharetta dads in the game this weekend.
Well, he tried to keep his feet, and you know what happened? He lost his balance fell down. They picked up the ball, almost scored going the other way. So there you go. There you go. Like you don't have to. You feel contact, you go down, man. You don't have to be an alpha red dad.
No, of course you do. I mean, see, and we haven't even talked about like the Kylian Mbappe red. We haven't talked about the Letitia contact from behind in the Women's FA Cup. Haven't talked about the head injuries that happened in Columbus and St. Louis, where the time that players were off the field was completely and totally apparently just random, and one was 48 seconds and the other was 2 minutes before they were allowed back in. So there's still stuff on the table, Bart. We barely scratched the surface, but I thought it was, but I thought
you
it was
also kept Bart for an hour.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, when there's a lot to talk about, and like I said, I wanted to take it with two lanes. It just so happens that they intersect. Yes, we're talking about the match. Yes, we're talking about the refereeing, but I wanted to talk about the refereeing in the sense of the overarching ideas. And yes, they happen to apply to the match that we were all a part of on Saturday. So that was why I wanted to do this way today. And I borrowed you for an hour. Are you going to get in trouble?
No, I'll be all right.
I will, but
I was answering emails and responses, so we're
okay. All right.
I will support Bart in the sense that I agree that, and I agree with him fully that, as you go into this summer window could get messy in terms of players coming in and out.
Yeah.
Because if guys aren't doing the job, I am always a proponent of it. If guy ain't doing the job, I'm gonna find someone who will.
Yeah.
If it ain't you, I'll find something. I'll find your replacement for you. 6 and center back is where I'm looking as well.
Yeah.
I think Derek Williams has lost a step, and I love Derek. Good dude. I thought he was really good last year.
Oh yeah. So finish your point.
I thought Derek was really good last year. I think Derek's losing a step, and I like him as a clubhouse guy. I don't think the number is very big on him. I'm fine with Derek. But Stian hasn't been healthy or consistent enough. I like Abram, but he's more of a passive defender. I would be fine if you went and got someone and started them next to Noah Cobb and let the kid play.
Yeah.
I'm here for it, man.
Noah and Ephra. Okay, one point that we didn't get into. David brought it up in the chat, and I'm glad he did. The late sub involving
Bart, you get to get mad again.
Campana, the sub involving Campana and Arudi, where Maxi Arudi decided he wanted to take his time, and you're supposed to be leaving the field in a certain length of time, and Maxi Arudi, when he was told to hurry up to go off, he slowed down. So the substitution rule, once again, you're milking the clock and you're doing all these things and you're not getting carded for that either. So once again, it gets back to game management and reading the room, and it was not read very well.
Yep. I mean, that's not even reading the room, John. That's applying the rules as MLS is listed.
It's like, dude, get off.
But, hey, Alexis de Silva did whatever the hell he wanted to do that game, and no one could tell him different. That was just the problem, is that he was out there vibing. He was just. I mean this sincerely. The dude seemed like he was just cashing a page, collecting a page.
He was vibing.
And I'll be honest, I've had games like that, but usually, no offense, they're the U10, tournament games where I'm just out there to run 5 games and 6 games in a row and make sure that the players aren't picking their noses too much.
Ew.
They're 10.
They're 9 years old, John.
Ew.
What else do you expect them to do?
Ew.
John, I had a game. My game. Luckily, I wasn't the center for this. 7 minutes in, we had a kid get hurt to the point that he had to leave the match and go to a hospital. Non-contact injury. Non-contact injury. Had to throw out a parent because they decided to come onto the field.
Wow.
Had a red card in the final minute of. We were in like 5 minutes of stoppage time because said parent. Had to give a red card for a dog, so penalty kick. So had an interesting Sunday as well, I will say.
Busy, yes. So soccer.
Well, again, I wasn't the center, so the reporting wasn't my job.
Do you ever have those where you have a game like that and you look at the center and go, "Oh, glad I'm not you today."
Yeah, I literally said that to him afterwards. I was like, "Well, don't call me if you need help with the reports."
Not happening.
Sorry,
Yeah.
John, go.
Hey, a lesson to all parents: don't come onto the field. That's not where your space is. Your space is on the sideline. And when you're 4 yards onto the field and then get mad at me for telling you to get off the field,
Oh my God.
you don't get to do that. So I hope that person enjoys his hopeful suspension.
Wow. That's tremendous. Soccer for US POD, you got a plug?
Recording tonight about the women's national team performances and not results, performances, evaluating players. So
Okay.
that's
How
what
did you
our
feel
goals-
about Mauricio Pochettino being there for that game Saturday?
Well, I'm sure some Spurs fans felt very familiar. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. All right. So hopefully we didn't get you into trouble. I'm glad you were answering emails and making sure that everything was fine. Which one of the two of you had the dog that had just had the bath?
Oh, it's not a dog; it's a rabbit.
Okay. So the rabbit just had a bath?
No, he didn't have a bath. He just she was sent by Mephistopheles to punish me.
Okay.
It's her entire existence is built on making me suffer. And so with a rabbit, we feed them Timothy hay throughout the day. And so I just given her some Timothy hay, and she decided that she was just going to grab the metal hay holder that hangs on her litter box and just start yeeting that thing around the cage. So yeah, that's what happened.
Okay. All right. So, Bart, thanks again. Have a good time recording tonight. And obviously, we will turn that as quickly as humanly possible, as we always do
Same.
here on the network.
That's my job, John.
Yeah. All right. Be good, my friend. Thanks for hanging out for an entire hour because I know there was a lot to talk about.
I'm glad I get to talk about it with y'all here. I hope everyone
This is
enjoys their
therapy.
Monday. Go outside and touch grass today. I mean that sincerely, not in a condescending way.
Yes.
Enjoy the weather.
Yes.
If you can,
It's
double
gonna
up
be
on those allergy
80-something
meds.
degrees.
Yeah. Double up on the allergy meds and head outside.
Yes. And don't go from hot to cold to hot.
Oh, by the way, this is my coffee mug, but I can't drink out of it on this side. So I acquired a Waffle House coffee mug finally. So.
Nice. I need to get one before I leave.
Yes. Yes, you do.
I
I
don't know. I won't tell you how I procured this.
John, there's not going to be a Waffle House in my life
No.
after June.
But you will have In-N-Out, I believe.
This is true.
So there's a
It's not
trade.
Waffle House.
There's a trade-off.
There's no Waffle Houses. I need to open a Waffle House. That's what I'm going to do.
See, that would be tremendous. Oh, that'd be great.
That would be awesome.
Jared is a franchisee for Waffle House in Utah. Oh,
Yeah, we're doing it.
yes, you are.
I believe it. You can match the energy needed. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what you do is you
It's just decaf coffee because, Mormons.
well, no, but what you do is you make sure that you find some great prospects here, and you use your Waffle House allocation money. You use your WHAM to get them over from Georgia to work the Waffle Houses in Utah. That's how you do it. Yes,
Yeah, Derek, it's a lot of rabbit poop.
Yeah, it is a lot.
But they're litter box trained, so we just have a big plastic litter box and just use equine pine horse pellets from like Tractor Supply. Just change that every couple days, and yeah, you're good.
Wow. Okay. All right, Bart, be good to see you. Thanks again, and we'll catch up with you tonight with Soccer for US POD. Thanks for all of the intel. Be good. All right, so that's Bart. Jarrett, let me go through gossip rumors and what to watch. And
Cool.
It's been a fun day, and I know that we hit the E rating in the first 4 minutes, but sometimes you got to do that.
Fun is a fluid term, but carry on.
Yes, thank you, sir. The fact that we had Jarrett for the full 2 hours, that was always fun. Soccer on TV today, we'll go over rumors as well. And if you saw the Kylian Mbappe challenge, that was pretty nasty. Go back in social media if you can and find the there's a Luis Enrique when Mbappe was at PSG, had him in the film room, and he was talking him up and down, trying to instill the star, what he really could be, but that also meant helping out on defense and being a two-way player. And Luis Enrique, he was letting Mbappe have it, and Mbappe was just like, I don't think that ever sunk in. But so when you have a moment like we saw with Mbappe this past weekend, yeah. So go back and see if you can find the Luis Enrique conversation where he literally is in Mbappe's face about being a two-way player. That was the first thing that stuck in my head when I saw the challenge from Mbappe on this weekend. All right, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And we're out of here. Being in Espanol, simulcasting Ligue 2, Bastia and Laval at 2:45. If you don't have BN, Nuestra Telesidio for the fans, Liga 1 Max Pro, our buddy Nino Torres at Gold TV, Teise, all of that. You can get it at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps them out, helps us out, and it helps you out with your continuing degenerate viewing habits when it comes to leagues around the world. CBS Sports Network has Monday Night Football in the championship, Hull City and Coventry. Our buddy John Nason, I'm sure, is going to be watching that one at 3 o'clock. Bournemouth and Fulham is at 3 on USA Network. ESPN Deportes, Atletico Madrid and Valladolid is at 3. Fox Deportes, Serie A at 2:45. Peru Primera at 8 o'clock. Alianza Lima and Deportivo Garcilaso. Gold TV, Portuguese Primera, Racing and Liverpool, and Defensor Sporting and Cerro, doubleheader 2:30 and 5. Universo simulcasting the Premier League. ESPN Plus simulcasting Atleti and Valladolid, as well as at 2:20 Huesca and Malaga in Ligue 2. Spanish La Liga Dos. NBCSports.com simulcasting Premier League. Paramount Plus simulcasting English Championship. Generation Adidas Cup is going on right now on MLS's YouTube channel. Toulouse and Minnesota United's U16s, followed by Bayern Munich and St. Louis City's U16s, Monterrey and FC Cincinnati's U18s, and Palmeiras and the Dynamo's U18s at 4:30. Women, DAZN USA, German Frauen Bundesliga at noon, Bayer Leverkusen and Cologne. VIX has Liga MX Femenil at 10 o'clock, Monterrey and Querétaro. Now, also, gossip, rumor, and innuendo for today. Let's see if there's any. I know this will shock you, but according to Florian Plettenberg at Sky Sports Germany, Messi and friends are very interested in signing Kevin De Bruyne on a free. We've talked about it, and we've talked about how it could work. It would have to be one of those Zlatani deals, or it would have to be just if you're going to sign him for a long-term deal, it's going to have to be one of those where he slides in under the AM this year, and he's an AM player, and then you sign him because you don't know who's coming back among the Gulfstream Galacticos next year because they're 34, 36, and 37. So we'll see. Al Nassr could make a move for Luis Diaz as an alternative to Vinicius Jr. Everton and Ipswich in the three-letter paper. Latest to join the club, U21 striker Liam Delap could be Ipswich. Newcastle interested in Racing Genk and Greece midfielder Konstantinos Karetsis, facing competition from Bayern Munich, Napoli in the Premier League. That's the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Newcastle sent scouts to watch Yaya Fofana at Angers as they want to strengthen their goalkeeping options. Arsenal's interested in Ajax's 19-year-old Jarell Hato this summer, although any potential deal for the defender likely to hinge on the future of Jakub Kivior. Gunners also have no plans to sign on loan Chelsea is Raheem Sterling on a permanent basis. Chelsea and Bournemouth willing to pay €35 million to sign Johnny. We know him as Johnny, or Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis, and that's from Fichajes in Spanish. Jarrett's joining us again. What did I miss?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, man. I don't know what to do with myself now that Mo Salah signed his deal.
Yeah, I know.
Now where am I going to get my drama?
Well, you're probably going to get your drama with De Bruyne.
We talked about this. We talked about this off air.
Uh-huh.
I think it was Jason said that Lionel Messi is about to get the world's most expensive babysitter. And
Correct.
that's how they're going to fit this under the cap. Like De Bruyne is going to be on like a vet minimum, getting paid in Apple stock to make it work.
I mean, they've got an ish ton of AM. So for this half season, they can pay him, and he's an AM player, and everything's fine. It's going to have to be one of those Zlatani deals where he's an AM player in year one, and then you figure out who's not staying, and then he turns into a DP or something like that.
Let me tell you, if that's what they do, and I think you're right, John. I think you're right. The other owners in this league are going to be so pissed off they won't be able to see straight.
Of course.
If you manipulate this into a 1-year Kevin De Bruyne deal where he's making not a lot of money for the half year, and then you plan to bring him in as a full DP next year, they're not confirmed coming to Miami there, but he's been Miami is allegedly interested in bringing him in.
Yes.
But they don't have it. To do it, he'd have to be on a very, very friendly number.
Yes.
But because of, as John said, I think John's dead on, because of the AM they have, you could do him on a 6-month deal for not a lot of money, have him come in and be a super friend, and then sign into a DP deal. No, Derek, I couldn't let it go because the only thing funnier than Kevin De Bruyne coming here is if Kevin De Bruyne comes here and Messi and friends still lose in the first round.
That right now, Messi and friends have just Messi and friends right now just have over 3,100,000 in AM available.
Yeah,
so
they can.
If you wanted to spend 2.5 on that, 2.5 of it and get KDB, then you 2.5 for half a season, then that's like getting paid 5 next year or whatever if you want to extrapolate it. But I think it's going to be an AM deal, and you've got AM to spend. LAG does not. And so it's something.
LAG went all in on the playoffs last year, and they got a trophy. Like, I know it's fun to make fun of the Galaxy right now because they're bad. Like, they're bad.
Yeah.
I know it's fun, but guess what? They hung a banner.
Yeah.
You can sit there and smile through it all when you hung a banner.
Yeah.
At least for a while.
Yeah. So, but right now, looking at the AM numbers as of the end of February, $3,151,842. So if you sign Kevin De Bruyne for $842 a game, and then extrapolated that whatever next year, it's going to have to be an AM deal for the half season. He comes in, helps them out, signs to the mega deal next year for 2 years after that or whatever. So that's if and that is, once again, it has been shared by a bunch of different sources that there's interest. Shocking that would happen.
Yeah, David, there is an AM limit that you can do, but what we mean by that is like, yeah, you could pay him more than like the league minimum because they have the AM to eat it, but you couldn't put him on a DP deal, obviously. But you could have him eat a bunch of AM for half a year, and then decide, in January that so and so's leaving,
yes.
So now we got an open DP spot. So now here's Kevin De Bruyne on a full year deal,
right? Yeah.
And if you tell him like, hey man, you want to come play with us, take a little less money, come play with us for half a year, and try and win a trophy.
Yep.
And when you're Miami, you're able to, in this current situation, this current iteration of Miami is able to do that with guys like that.
Will do. All right. We're out. That's a Monday. Jarrett, you get the last words.
To reiterate Bart's thing, make sure we're touching grass and not in the mean way, but like go outside, enjoy the weather, get some fresh air in your lungs.
Yes.
Of course, your allergy medicine.
Yes.
Mileage may vary,
yes.
And have fun.
Yes. So for Jarrett, I'm John. Thanks to Bart. Thanks to Abe. Thanks to y'all. It was a spirited discussion. It always is on Mondays, that's why we call it Reaction Mondays. One way or the other, it's a reaction. Back at it again tomorrow. We'll talk about the rest of Major League Soccer. If there's anything left over from everything that happened today, we'll talk about that then. So for Jarrett, who is here for the entire time, except for when he had to dump out to take a meeting and then leave the meeting, I'm John. Play it safe, everybody. Mucho plats, y'all. Since it's the end of the show, that means we get to